nothing but a world of pain. Sitting in the desert, some kind of heat. My belly's empty, no food to eat. Waiting on the plane, but the food don't come. My mouth is thirsty, not a drop to drink. The flies are buzzing, too hot to think. Waiting on a plane, but the food don't come. Waiting on a plane, but the food don't come. Two hands will grow the food we need. I'm so damn sick of government hand-me-downs. No politicians coming round. Government promises all around. All they do is let us down. Toss the blanket from the sky. When the rain comes, they gonna keep us dry. Waiting on a plane, but the food don't come. Waiting on a plane, but the food don't come. Waiting on a plane, but the food don't come. Waiting on a plane, but the food don't come.
I'm really pleased to have eventually tracked down the strange sounding person with the name Hambone Littletail. Now, I find it very hard to not put on his incredible accent when I speak to him, so I'm going to try and hold myself back here. So welcome to the show, Hambone.
Well, thank you. I am quite honored. You are the first. You are the first media outlet in history to ever seek the advice of Hambone Littletail for for whatever that means.
Well, I don't know. I don't know if you should be honoured, but I feel honoured. I feel honoured that you've said that you're honoured. So
Yes.
we can both be honoured together here.
All
So
right.
yeah, that's a double honouring. Double helping of honour. Hambone, how I found out about you. You just suddenly appeared one day somewhere on some Facebook page somewhere. And I saw this guy sitting in a chair under the trees with his laptop and this little dog. And I thought, what the hell is this all about? So I clicked it. I clicked that play button. And for about 30 minutes or something, I was utterly entranced by it. And not just utterly entranced with the information you imparted, but utterly entranced by your character. And by how close your analysis of the situation is to mine. So we're brothers at heart, mate.
All right.
Yeah. So how come Hambone? Give us a bit of a background about Hambone and where did Hambone come from?
Well, just real quickly, I was born and raised in Atlanta, Georgia. So, born in 1959, raised in an upper middle class white boy suburban neighborhood, and got my education in journalism. So I set out earlier in life, graduated in '82 with a BA in journalism, and then did my graduate coursework at University of Florida in communications, but never got I got in a big fight with my graduate committee. You won't be surprised to hear with the damn planet eater on my graduate committee. He and I went down to the mat. So I never got my master's, but I've got 5 years of journalism training. And so I started out at age 23 to be some sort of crusading environmental journalist. So that was my original plan. Of course, I was a lot more mainstream. And after about 7 years of starving to death, and I was doing all right for myself, I was doing all right for myself, kind of playing the fence between mainstream and alternative media. And most of my freelance career was with environmental stories. And then I just got sick and tired of it, of the poverty. Even though I was making twice as much money in the 1980s as I'm making now, 3 times as much money as I'm making since 2008. And I went to the absolute 180-degree bizarre turn in 1988 to cash in my career as a crusading environmental journalist and going into real estate investment and sales. You can imagine. You can imagine the reaction I got from my lefty tree-hugging friends when I headed over to Century 21 Real Estate to start selling real estate in the Santa Cruz Mountains in the redwood forest of the Santa. That went over real big. And
sounds like a good film to me.
Yeah, so I don't know what all that was about. So just skipping ahead. So I did that with some breaks, some hops, skips, and jumps.
Yeah.
I actually got real estate licenses in 3 states and made quite a bit of money. So what happened with my story is this. So this was me. I was basically I was a real estate investor and real estate agent, literally driving around. I had 2 cars in with a dirt-worshipping tree hugger bumper sticker on my gas-sucking pickup truck, honestly believing, Mike, that I was. I honestly believed, no joke, that I was a dirt-worshipping tree hugger driving around investing and selling real estate. And it was in 2007, the year I believe I made $113,000, as I recall. At least that's what my tax return said to the IRS that I made. Terence McKenna entered my life on YouTube in November of 2007, and my world got really weird really quickly.
Tell
And
us something a little bit about who this guy Terence McKenna is. Me anyway, because I know the name, but I think he's a bit of a strange geezer, isn't he?
well, if you go down the Terence McKenna rabbit hole, good Lord, brother, I had heard his name too. I vaguely recognized the guy's name, but I had no, I really had no idea who he was. But it turns out he died in the year 2000 at age 54. Unfortunately, we no longer. Oh, good Lord, we the loss of Terence McKenna with what he would be sounding like 1 week before the Donald Trump inauguration. I can only imagine. But
I
if
take it,
you want to,
is he David Icke's friend or something?
oh no, 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 he is absolutely not he absolutely howls at the very notion of the New World Order conspiracy theorists,
All
as
right.
he says that nobody is in control of this planet. This planet, and this was what he was saying, years before his death,
Right.
that this planet is completely out of control, and he was always talking about what he called the photo finish, that it was going to be the Armageddon. He would never use that word, but the photo finish, that it's coming down. And I mean, he was calling this what was unfolding on this planet, 20 or 30 years ago. He was looking ahead into what was going on. And, and we are entering the photo finish that he's talking about. Either we're going to get rid of these fuckers or they're going to get rid of us. And he was not willing to call who the winner was going to be, and neither am I. He went to his grave not calling, but to anyone's delight, there are thousands and thousands of hours of YouTube recordings, because what he did all the way back, he started in about the mid, from about 1985 to about 2000. He recorded all of he gave talks. He just gave these wide ranging talks about a whole lot more than the ecological crisis unfolding at the end of the 20th century. That was a major part of what he was talking about. But thousands and thousands of hours that he just recorded, probably on reel-to-reel tapes that have been preserved. This library of, and so you can go onto YouTube, and there's probably hundreds of channels just dedicated, and some of these recordings will go on for 5 or 6 hours.
Wow.
And you will get sucked down this rabbit hole. He talks like this. His voice sounds very much like this. And so imagine listening to this voice going on. You think that I talk for a long time, and listening to this for 5 or 6 hours.
No, stop.
Like people are like, how can you listen to this guy? And but you get, anyway. I got sucked down the Terence McKenna
Yeah.
rabbit hole in late, it was November 2007. So he's really into psychedelics, which I was not all into. I never smoked a joint in my entire life till I was 42 years old, and
That's
2001 was the first time. I've never done a hit of acid since the day I was born. I've never done a line of cocaine, and I had eaten a few little mushrooms, but I had never done more like what I call a social dose of 1 gram. And so Terence, if you get into Terence, he will soon say that it will put you up to the 5-gram challenge. He said if you've done like a gram of dried psilocybin mushrooms and thinking that you have tripped, that you haven't even gotten through the front door of the mushroom castle, as he would call it. And so he challenged me to do the 5 grams of psilocybin. So I did that 5-gram trip. I've done that 4 times in my life. My first one of those was the full moon of April 2008. And then the next month, I did, in May of 2008, I did my first ayahuasca trip.
Right.
And in June, full moon, I did my first San Pedro cactus trip, which is pretty much an identical twin of peyote. So you got to understand that I was running a very successful real estate career in Austin, Texas by day, and I was doing these mind blowing hallucinogenics at night, and needless to
Oh
say,
dear.
is Terence calls it cleaning your disc, is what he calls a 5 gram mushroom trip or an ayahuasca trip. He would call it cleaning your disc, just hitting the delete button on everything that you think about the planet, how you're how you're relating to the planet.
Right. It's like
and
format.
yeah,
I think it would be formatting the disc these days, wouldn't it? Or something.
yeah. Before you reformat, you got to clean it.
You got to clean it and then reformat
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
And so I cleaned my disc in
Yeah.
the year 2000, but unfortunately, I cleaned the disc of a six-figure real estate agent and investor living in a beautiful 4-bedroom, 3-bath McMansion, with 2 cars, and my 2-car garage was so full of my planet-eating shit, I couldn't even fit either one of my cars inside my own 2-car garage, partly because I had my second refrigerator. I had one refrigerator in my kitchen, but this was me. Sometimes I would have a roommate, one of my buddies hanging out, but I was basically a single man with no kids, living in a 4-bedroom, 3-bath house, just living the life of Riley and having a life that 99% of this planet would trade for.
Right.
I was the model. I mean, I had what anybody would consider an absolutely glorious life in terms of money, in terms of friends, material possessions, drinking the top shelf liquor, smoking the top shelf weed.
Women.
Some of those.
Some of them.
Believe it or not, I even had an occasional woman in my life. Believe it or not, this is South Austin, Texas. I know that
men. It could be men. I don't know.
it was women.
It was women. All right.
And then this happened to me, and
you met Terence. I take it you met Terence somewhere.
Well, he died in the year 2000, but I met him on YouTube, and so I essentially had to disentangle myself from that whole lifestyle. I walked away from my $100,000 a year job. I sold my house, got rid of everything I owned, with the big asterisk is I did have one of my rental houses that was paid off. It was free and clear. I mean, I owe the taxes on it every year. It was actually what I used my mother's inheritance to buy, and it's all tied up with the Internal Revenue Service, blah, blah, blah. So I kept one house, which pays me a small stipend. So I am still... To this minute, I am living off of my real estate investments. And so, yes, I do own this very cool old farmhouse on about 1.5 acres, about 20 miles outside of Austin. It has a big organic garden and organic fruit trees and the chicken coop and the goat pen and all of that stuff. And so, yes, I do own home, but I don't live in it. But I have been homeless for. I left my house, headed to Peru in January of 2009. So I have literally, physically, technically been pretty much homeless since January of 2009. Good God! And here it is, 2017. It's getting a little tiresome.
So what happened to your farm then?
The one in Texas?
Aye.
Yeah, I'm renting it out. I have a great
Oh,
tenant
it's
in.
been rented out. I
Yeah, that's
see.
what I live off. That is which is keeps me in less than the poverty line,
So
and I
where
just
did it all go? What did you do with all your financial
I
gains?
well that's the other thing. Well, I the first thing I did is I got rid of anything with an interest bearing account. I paid off all of my mortgages, my credit cards. I like to joke. It's no joke. This is real. My Home Depot credit card. Just the big box store. I don't know what they
Yeah.
call them in Scotland. They're called Home Depot. These planet and one of the biggest planet eating corporations. My one store credit card when I paid it off at the end of 2008, $22,000 I had run up on one
Wow.
store credit card. So I had to pay off all of my mortgages, all of my credit cards. I have not paid one penny to the what I call the banksters behind it all. They live off these damn interest-bearing credit cards and mortgages and car
Mm.
payments. The number one way to stop feeding this beast is you've got to get those interest-bearing credit cards. That is how they keep us enslaved. So
Yeah.
I cleared whatever I had left. So I had about after all of that, I had about 25 grand left. And what I did is I went out and bought 2,000 ounces of physical silver and went out to a swamp in East Texas and dug a hole and dumped 2,000 silver dollars into a hole in some swamp in East Texas. I hope I can. I hope I remember. I hope I can find it when I go back to dig it up. And so I have 2,000 ounces of silver sitting in a swamp and this little.
How the hell are you gonna find that? Yeah,
So anyway, that's my story. So here I go, and I've just been working odd jobs and sitting up here and ranting about the collapse of a planet. For I'm going on
So
6 years
where are you sitting up then?
right this minute.
Yeah, yeah.
I am sitting on the floor in a duplex in South Austin, Texas. I'll be here. I've kind of worn out my welcome here, so I'm getting booted out of here on Monday. And so 4 days before the Donald Trump election, I'm fleeing with my life to this tiny little village out in the middle of nowhere in the desert of New Mexico. And on Monday night, I will be moving into a 110-year-old Adobe with wood heat. It's got a pump, it's got a well outside with two hand pumps, a big old organic garden that I've put in, and it's still on the grid, unfortunately. I'll have to talk with the lady who owns the house about getting a solar panel up on the roof. And that's where I am going to be 1 week from today on Inauguration Day. I think that's a pretty good place to be. And
Yeah,
I
that
would.
sounds to me like a great place to be. So,
And that's that. That is as far ahead as my plans go.
well,
Right now.
okay.
That is how much, but I will somehow, Mike. It is unbelievable. Anyone who's been tracking me, that how does this son of a bitch do it? How do with all of this crazy shit going on in my life? How do I manage to get these rants together? And so each day,
Yeah,
I manage to find a way to record these crazy ass rants for anyone who wants to listen, and I throw them out there just for anyone who is interested in this
right,
information.
right. And tell us clearly, if you can, Hambone, what are these rants called, and where can you find them?
Okay, anyone who wants to dive into my little rabbit hole, it's called Humpty Dumpty Tribe. That is all one word. So the capital H, but everything else is just all one word. It runs together. Humpty Dumpty Tribe on
Right,
YouTube, and
and
I've got 3,500 of these rants going on
3,500.
3,500 of these rants.
And how long have you been doing these rants?
My first one was May 11th, 2011. 5/11/11, and I started not having no clue where it was going, and here I am, unbelievably 5.5 years later.
Well, I find them extremely engaging, and just spot on in terms of your analysis. So, could you give us a little take on that analysis and what you think about things, Hambone?
Well, you said you don't mind about the 4-letter words. I'm trying not to use them.
You can say fuck as many times as you want.
Basically, the bottom line, Mike, for anyone willing to do the smallest amount.
Can we do this in harmony? I'd love to do this in harmony.
Yes.
Is it 2 words?
No, it's 4 words.
It's 4 words. Oh, I thought it was 2 words.
Well, you could probably get it down to 2. My 4 words are "we are so fucked." That's
right.
The bottom line. Or you could say "we're fucked." I guess we're fucked.
Yeah, I thought those were the 2 words.
On this planet is we are so fucked at this point that it's the only thing left to lose is my sick, twisted sense of humor, and so I just. It is so in our face, and it's getting ready to be. It's not just going to be. It's going to be rubbed in our face. It's going to be ground into our face with Donald Trump's boot heel, starting 1 week from today, brother. That if anybody after 1 week from today can sit there and spend about 1 hour pulling their heads out of their asses and looking at the most basic science out there and come to any other conclusion that we're fucked. We are so fucked, and that's I guess my message. Now, what is that a good message to be broadcasting? My message of complete and utter hopelessness.
This is Extinction Radio, mate.
Yeah.
You can't say it anywhere else. This is the best place you're going to have to be able to say it. So say it as often as you want,
That's the bottom line, brother. And so all I do is just present evidence. My official title is my official job description, as I tell. I just like to see their reaction. Like, that old line, what do you do? I hate that.
So do I.
What do you do? I say, I am a doomsday prophet, an environmental alarmist, and the chronicler of the long overdue collapse and fall of global industrial civilization. If you want to shut somebody up when they ask you, what do you do? You give them that answer, and they will look at you like you're some drooling, psychotic street person living under a bridge, and they will politely just turn around and walk away from you. Very few of them are going to challenge someone who answers that question that way.
Well, that is a brilliant way to answer that question, and I wish I had the courage to answer that question that way myself. But being producer, nonetheless, and host of Extinction Radio and an administrator of the Near Term Human Extinction Support Group, then I tend to use that, but I wish I could use what you're using. That's
another way of saying the same thing, it sounds like.
Yeah, it is another way, but yours is much more fun because I'd love to see the reaction.
Well, the Cliff Notes version of that job, of course, is I'm an eco-Nazi. I am a proud unapologetic, unrepentant eco-Nazi. We need more eco-Nazis. The more the better.
So
I am proud of being an eco-Nazi. I have nothing to be ashamed of about my opinions.
right, so I absolutely loved, and you probably heard. I think it wasn't Wednesday's show. It was the show that has just passed. It was the show before that. I sneaked one of your lines.
Yeah,
and you heard it, didn't you? And I didn't even ask your permission. I broke
No, you never
copyright in
need
all
to,
sorts of ways. And
No, I have. That's the other. Anyone listening to this, I want anybody who wants to use my rants for whatever diabolical purposes, entertainment, whatever. You have my complete permission
you be
to
careful.
my
I
rant.
would add something
Anybody.
to that. I would add,
Okay, what would you caution
except
me?
I would say, except the Republican Party, because they might try to prove how climate change is unreal because look how mad this guy is.
Well, no, I'm not. No, they're if any Republican Party members, they can put me up there because what they're not going to say is who you're listening to is any time I want to be could be a $100,000 real estate agent and investor. That this is what successful businessmen who have pulled their head out of their ass and looked at what's going down on this planet sound like. You know what I'm saying. I've got a 5-year college education. They say I have a 148 IQ, and it doesn't even take that anymore. So yeah, put me up there as you know, as an example of what happens when someone living the American dream, the big fat lie of the American dream, pulls his head out of his ass.
They wouldn't put you up like that, would they? They'd
Well,
say
they would leave. They
this
would
is say
leave
that.
that.
Well,
Yeah,
they would leave that out. So
they would.
fuck the Republicans. You can't have Hambone stuff.
I don't think there's any danger of it anyway.
I don't think so.
Very,
I think they'll be
there's
wanting.
very little danger of me showing up on any of their.
But Extinction Radio is very happy to have Hambone Littletail on, and tell us about that wee doggy you got.
Okay, well, I just did yesterday. I told yesterday was my 1-year anniversary with Sancho Panza, who is officially my emotional support animal. And so I just posted the rant yesterday about telling that whole story about I got him at the pound down in St. Croix. He picked me out of the dog pound a year ago yesterday, and he's been my little. It's that Sancho Panza. Sancho Panza is my little sidekick, and of
so
course.
that would be up on YouTube at the moment under Hambone Littletail.
No, under Humpty Dumpty Tribe.
Sorry, Humpty Dumpty Tribe. Humpty Dumpty Tribe. Right? How could you forget that? So yeah, and she.
If you want to hear the story of Sancho Panza, it's all.
Yeah. Come on, you give us a bit of Sancho Panza's story.
So you know who Sancho Panza is Don Quixote's sidekick.
Yeah.
Very few people even get the joke. So of course that makes me Don Quixote, who of course is the #1 single greatest figure in literary history. I mean Cervantes in the year 1500 was spelling out, looking ahead. I mean, go back and reread that book, and of course, Don Quixote was an absolute genius who understood what was coming down on this planet. But of course, even back in 1500, probably Cervantes himself I'm sure was vilified by the powers that be in the Spanish government. You know he was, and that he was pointing out in there as sounding just like Chris Hedges today, that you will be if you go up against the powers that be, like Cervantes was in the year 1500, that you're going to be put out there as a lunatic, like Don Quixote, pointing out what was going down on this planet. And Sancho Panza, of course, his little sidekick, was just this greedy little fucker trying to get the scraps that fell out of, Don Quixote was this rich lord or knight errant, whatever he called him, considered himself, and Sancho Panza did not agree with any of the stuff. He just wanted the rewards, basically the scraps. But of course, Sancho kept he was the one that took all the punishment for Don Quixote's righteous fights, the tilting at windmills and stuff. And so I just like to look at us at that same version here in the 1500 years later. What has changed on this planet except the population of this planet? What was it when Cervantes? What was the population of this planet? 500 million? Maybe 500 million. Maybe the Georgia Guidestone recommendation was about 1,500.
Yeah.
And that's the main thing that's changed. But the madness, it was alive. And all of this shit about the New World Order. Come on, dude. Read Cervantes. Read Shakespeare from 1500, and tell me about some New World Order. It was alive and well in the year 1500.
So tell me, Hambone. Do you ever use your real name, or is Hambone? You happy with Hambone?
Yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy with Hambone. If you ever get an email from me, you'll see my real name. But I don't.
Yeah, I'm happy with Hambone.
Yeah,
absolutely happy. I am actually Professor Pongu.
there you go.
Yeah. And if you go to YouTube and put in Professor Pongu, and that's Pongoo, you might get yourself a bit of a laugh, mate.
All right.
Right, so yeah, I'm kind of well known around these parts as Professor Pongu, but I'm not actually a professor, but that's the name I gave myself just to take the piss out of the real professors. What I had in my mind was, see, when you're sitting there in that chair there, and that dog's running about you and you're tickling its tummy, and the stream is going by and it's a bloody cold day and whatever, and you're there on the laptop and you're kind of scrolling down there and you're finding this next thing that you think think's worth mentioning. What have you got up on your laptop? What have you put in Google or whatever it is?
Well, the reason, and I often get criticized for all of the attention that I put on the mainstream media. I actually do very few rants about, from Extinction Radio or one of my favorite sites, collapseofindustrialcivilization.com and Nature Bats Last. And if you are already listening to Extinction Radio, if you're already tuning into collapseofindustrialcivilization.com, there's nothing that I have. You see what I'm saying? I'm putting myself out there more just to get people in the gate through the gate.
Yeah.
And so I highlight the mainstream media for kind of the message is
it works a treat.
If this is what the mainstream media is saying, imagine
it's a lot worse.
If this is what is bubbled up out of this poison pit to get to Yahoo News each morning. Imagine the real scope
Yeah.
of what is going on this planet. But you don't even need to go on collapseofindustrialcivilization.com. It's right on Yahoo News
Yeah.
for anybody who wants to listen to it.
That's right. And the beauty of your parlays on video, the beauty of it is that it's not regulated. It's like we'll just go for this one here. This one looks interesting, you know. Anything can happen.
Well, you know, as you see, I've burned the batteries out of my no shit Sherlock button. So what I do now is I hold two buttons. And so and one thing that I'm obviously trying to train people to do, being a former journalist myself, with the education and 7 years of being a mainstream media reporter and editor, is trying to train people how to read between the lines of it. So I put my bullshit detector button in one hand and my no shit Sherlock button in the other. But you've got to train yourself to detect bullshit.
Yeah.
I mean, if you believe anything you read, and I want to make two very clear. I'm not sure if they're disclaimers exactly, just amplifications and clarifications on my opinion of the mainstream and the alternative media. And about as far as the mainstream media is concerned, I am not one of these people who says that everything on the mainstream media is unadulterated horseshit. Now on broadcast television news, it is.
Right.
Okay, it is. But I'm talking about, print media, just good old Yahoo News. There is plenty of good, solid information right there in the mainstream media. I'm actually quite impressed. I'm really impressed with the goddamn Washington Post recently.
Yeah.
There is some. So I am not one of these people who's going to sit here and just completely
quite right.
discount everything in the mainstream media.
It's the same with the Guardian. The Guardian over here is,
great. Yeah. It's always it's one of my favorite.
That's always been good, but it's picking up even more now. I'm probably cynical enough because to think that it's just doing it to sell more papers because it's really anticipated what the fuck is going on.
I'm cheer the Guardian on. They're one of my favorites, obviously.
Yeah, Darjamel. But have you got your two buttons there? Can you give us a press of them?
Well, as I say, my no
your
shit
battery's
Sherlock button is gone, but where is my bullshit detector button? I'm hiding in the bedroom just in case I don't want anyone to come knocking on the front door. Okay, here it is. Yes.
Right, put it closer to the microphone.
Okay, it's not very.
Bullshit detected. Take precautions.
Right, I think you've.
I've been through it all.
Yeah,
it's running. Even these batteries are running. I got to change the batteries.
Get some batteries. Get some bloody batteries, mate. Because the other one is less clear. The bullshit detector one is quite clear. Maybe it's just my ears, but no. But what I was saying is that I just love the free flow of it. You're not restricted to having to say point A, B, C, D, E, and F through it. You pick up something which takes your attention at that very moment and discuss it. And I really like that, that freedom that you have.
Well, we better use it. It's use it or lose it. Anybody.
I want to use it.
Yeah. I mean, you're using it, but anyone who thinks that there's not a shitload of people on this planet gunning at people like you and me, brother, to shut us up. The eco-Nazis, we are the single most despised group of people on the planet. I honestly believe that we are that even the conspiracy wackos can't stand us. It's like there was a who was it? I'm so sorry. Now this one I think I did read on collapse of industrial civilization. Who was the guy who ran the numbers and he said there's 10 million of us on the planet, which at first sounds like, man, if there's 10 million of us, that sounds like a lot, but you put it up against 7.5 billion, and I think it came out, his math came out like we represent 0.016%, and that 99 point, you know what I say, over 99% of this planet thinks people who think like us. We're absolute fools. We're Don Quixote tilting at windmills. We're inventing all this shit. That there's nothing wrong. That
Yeah, people have been talking about the end of the world for 10,000 years. Shut up.
you know, and you just and that's how we're perceived, and
Yeah, that's
that's
how we are
one more reason
perceived.
it's so hopeless. Oh, we're despised by the what I call the limp dick mainstream environmentalists.
Oh,
In
yeah,
some
yeah,
ways, you and I, brother, are more despised by these little whatevers than we're despised by the Donald
Well, of
Trump gang.
course we are. Of course we are, because they have the vested interests in keeping the system going, you know, for as long as possible, and they control those under them, and give them little tasks to do, to go out into the street and say, yes, we've got to save the so and so thing from going extinct. Which means that they get their wages. Nobody else gets any wages, but they get their wages by using their slaves with their little green shaker pots to go out into the streets. But actually, on that subject, I made a little bit of progress today, because I was in the Green Party, Greenpeace. I was in a lot of these NGOs for quite a while during my life. And I know a lot of the people involved in them, and I'm making a little bit of progress in that some of them are going, yeah, we've been fucking taken in this long, and this is the case. This actually is the case, because they've got kind of respect for what I did and when I did it. Because I have been involved for over 35 years in social justice and environmental campaign coordination. So they're kind of starting to think, fuck, this guy could be right, you know. So that was good today. I had a little good experience there.
All right.
But what I'd like with you, Hambone, if you're up for it, is either just for me to rip your audio from your Humpty Dumpty tribe. Rip your latest audio, which is closest to the radio show, and maybe take out some of the in between bits where you're searching and stuff, or indeed have a Humpty Dumpty tribe live.
However you want to do it. As I say, whatever you want to do with whatever this discussion or anything that I ever publish, you are welcome to do anything you want with.
Well, if you've got the time and you're willing to do that, I'd really appreciate that as being a regular segment on the radio show.
All right, we'll just have to figure out the mechanics of making that happen.
Yeah.
I'm thinking that I'm going to have good internet where I'm going in this little village in the middle of nowhere. And,
Yeah.
I'm getting emails from this. I know, but I've never tried Skype. I've never in my life tried Skype from there.
Yeah.
So let's hope it's not going to be interfered with.
Yeah, well, this you know, yeah, it probably won't be. How long are you going to be there?
It could be 6 weeks. It could be 6 months.
Right. Okay.
And I have no clue where I'm going. Once I wear out my welcome in New Mexico, where I'm going to wash up next. There, literally, it could be anywhere.
Right, Hambo. Well, we're in touch on Facebook, aren't we?
Well, I don't do. I mean, I do. Humpty Dumpty Tribe does. I just started a Facebook page about a month ago. It's about 1 month old. It's not getting any action at all. But it's only a month old. But
Well, just keep it going, mate.
yeah.
It's a way we've got of communicating with each other, yeah. And we'll talk via messages on that. Does that sound all right?
That sounds great to me, brother. And if anybody wants to talk to me, I'm easy to find. Just go onto my Humpty Dumpty Tribe YouTube page and send me a private message. If people don't know how to do that, this needs to be put out there anyway. Here's how to send a private message on to it works with some people, but not always. But it does work with me. What you do is you go on my homepage. You click on, you just go on to any one of my rants, and then there'll be the little blue link that says Humpty Dumpty Tribe. That calls up my homepage, and right up at the top of the page, I think just under that little under the photo at the top of the page, there's a little link that says About. You see the word About. You scroll over to About. You click on About. And what that does is brings up a send private message,
No.
and then you hit that, and you can write me a private message, and that is always a perfect way to contact me. It's not public for anybody else. It just goes, well, it's public to the NSA and the CIA. You know what I'm saying? But it's not broadcast. So if you want to send me a private message, you can always do that. I'm not promising I can get back to every private message, but that's how to do it. If anyone out there wants to find me, that would be the
Well,
preferred
there you go,
way of doing
folks.
it.
I mean, how can you refuse a personal conversation with the one, the only Hambone Littletail?
But I'm not much of one for talking on the phone, as my friends will say.
Well,
This
that's what I'm
is
saying. How can you refuse an
yeah,
email
yeah.
conversation? I hate telephones. I just bloody hate them. I can't stand them. I've got the cheapest version. I don't know how to text, and I don't want to learn how to text either, because I
There
just
you go.
you just keep getting pushed further and further into
Yep.
the technology. So fuck the technology.
There you go.
So Hambone, I'm probably going to have to say we'll call it
Oh,
a day for me. No, a night for me and a day for you.
you need to go to bed, brother. And
No, I need to get something to eat first.
there you go.
And but it's been great, Hambone. It's really been good to have that conversation with you, and I'm sure that the listeners that are listening to this show have got a completely different take now on that person that they see behind that computer or that laptop screen, and they've got a completely different take on your journalistic abilities, which have certainly shone through during our conversation. And also a different take on what made you the Hambone Little Bone you are today. So, and we'll be hearing a lot more of you in the future, mate. So all I can say is thank you very much for being on Extinction Radio, Hambone Littletail.
And thank you for having me, and I look forward to a long and fruitful friendship, brother.
So do I, mate. So do I, mate. So we'll be in touch soon. So, yep. So thanks again, Hambone.
Happy days. Bye.
Happy days, mate.